Good day everyone. Welcome to today's lesson, which is our topic for today is the system life cycle. This topic will discuss about phases or stages when you want to develop any of ICT solutions like system or website. In this video, we will only focus on these two stages, which is analysis and design. But before that, let's go to the introduction of system life cycle. Now, imagine your school want to stop using a paper to record the attendance of the students and start using a computer system instead. As a software company, have you wondered what is actually a step-by-step to develop a new system? This is where the system life cycle come in. Alright, so there are few of the steps that we need to follow to develop any of the ICT solution. In this case, we want to develop a student's attendance system. Now, let's see a step by step. First step is analysis. This is where we do the research to study about the current system, figure out the problem, the requirement that needed, and the information about the current system to develop a new system. Then comes the design. In design, you visualize how the system will look like by using the information that you gather in analysis stage. Next, after that, the development and testing. Development is where you build the system either by using a programming or any tools or software or hardware. Then, after you develop, you test the system to ensure that everything works properly. Next, implementation. Implementation is where you install the system and start using it. Let's say you start using a student's attendance system in a school. After that, we have is a documentation. Documentation where you put all the information about the system in a document so that you can review later. Preparing a manual book to use the system is also a part of the documentation. And finally, we have evaluation. Evaluation is about giving a feedback of using the system. It is where you check if the system provides a better solution and solve the problem. And in this stage, it will never stop as long as the people using the system. Development and testing, they have two-way process because after we test, so it might have a problem so that we need to redesign back again. So this is a two-way process. Next, let's go to the two stage that we want to focus on, and the first one is analysis. In analysis, there are actually stages that we need to see. First, research the current system. Next, identification of input and output. Next, what process take place? Problems with the current system. User requirement for the new system. What are the information requirement? And you identify the hardware and software that we need for the new system. Now, let's go to the first stages of analysis, which is research the current system. In research the current system, there are 4 methods that we can use to study about the current system. The first one is observation. So the observation is where the system analysts watch how people using the current system to know how it's works. Next method, interviews. This is where it's involved one-to-one questions and answer between analysts and the user. So it's a good method to deeply understand the existing system as the answer can be expanded. Next, we have questionnaires. Questionnaire is where you distribute the survey to find out the information of the current system. Information that you receive might be limited compared to interview, but you can get a quick analysis about the system. Last method is examination of existing document. This is where the analyst will spend their time to check the files or documentation about the system. So this method is quite time consuming as they need time to look at every single detailed information inside the document. Next, we will identify the input, output, process, problem, the requirement. Requirement is what the user needs for the system or the features, for example, and what the information that needed. Okay, to gather all this information, usually the analyst will use a data flow diagram to figure out this information. For example, as a student's attendance system, this is an example of data flow diagram. Alright, so based on this data flow diagram, we can figure out input, for example, student ID, the date, the way that the students present or absent, and then what the output is what will be displayed or what will be generated. So let's say the output that we want is the attendance report with the daily or summary. Next, what is the process that happen inside the system? Let's say inside the students and the attendance system, you want to update attendance, or maybe you want to add a report, or you want to add an attendance. Next, we have a user requirement. What features that you want? Okay, for example, we want a simple form to mark the attendance, or we want the system that can view the personal attendance record. Next is we can get the information requirement. What information that we want? For example, for the new system, we want the list of the student, or maybe we want the schedule of the class. Next, after we figure out all this information, we figure out the input, output, process, problem, and we find out the requirement and the information requirement for the new system. Now it is time to identify what hardware and software that we want to use to develop a new system. So these are some examples. So for the hardware, we have input devices and output devices. And for the software, we have, for example, if you want the system to be viewed in Android, so you need to find operating system that's suitable for that. And application software, for example, let's say for the students attendance system, you want to develop by using Microsoft Access, or you want to develop by using Microsoft Excel. That is example. Okay, so that is for the analysis part. Next part is a design. In design, there are also stages that you need to follow. The first one is file structures and data structures. Next, input formats, including the data capture forms. Next, output format, how it looks like. We want to know the screen layout, the report layout, for example, and the validation routine. Now, let's go through this one by one. First, file structures and data structures. So these are the example of how we visualize the structure of the data. For example, let's say the student's itinerary card. So what is the primary key? What is the data type? So we have put in the table so that we can easily how the data will be designed. Next, we have input formats, including the data capture form. This is you design the layout of um, to make the people easily to enter the data. For example, you want to ask the user to enter data, sure you will create a form. Okay, so for a form, there are two types, which is a paper-based and electronic-based. Paper-based is in form of paper, electronic-based usually it is online. So they are a different method or a different way on how to design the paper-based and electronic-based. This is in order to make a user can easily understand or enter the information. It's a user-friendly. Okay, so this is example for paper-based and this is example of electronic-based. So we will learn deeper on that in class. Next, we have a validation. Before that, we have an output format. How you will design the output to looks like. All right. So for example, after you create a form, the input format of asking a user to enter the information, now you have to design what output, what actually the design that will be displayed to the user. So these are the example, right? Or you can also, other than that, is a report layout. You can you need to design how the report looks like after the user enter the information, right? And the last part is actually a validation routine. Validation is where we need to ensure that the user enter the correct, not the correct, we need to ensure the user enter a reasonable data. We don't want a system that accept text or AB when the user enter their age, isn't it? So there are many of validation check, many type of validation check. For example, rate check, checking the range of the data, for example, from 1 to 12. If the user enter 13, the system should not accept. Next, we have a type check. Type check is you have to the system will ensure the user enter the correct type. For example, for the age, user must enter in a number, cannot in a text. Length is how many characters that the user are allowed. If let's say you set is a 3 character, so if the user enter 4 character, then the system should not allow. Next is a format. Format is where the user have to enter in a correct format. For example, you want the date with a slash. So if the user enter the date without a slash, then the system will not accept. So this make the system look consistent. Present data is actually where the user must enter the data. Let's say name. So if the user leave it blank, the system will not accept. Next is a check digit. Check digit is usually for the barcode. This is to ensure that the user enter the correct number of barcode. So that's all for the analysis and design. Next, we will go in detail about development, implementation, documentation, and evaluation. Thank you, class, for the listening.